You set that alarm at 6 a.m., you've rolled out your mat, and you wonder why every single pose still feels like absolute torture. It's not because you're inflexible, it's not because you're too old, and it's definitely not because you're not trying hard enough. Your practice is struggling because you're trying to build a skyscraper on quicksand. And there are 6 simple lifestyle foundations: sleep, movement, nutrition, mindset, simplicity, and faith that determine whether your yoga practice thrives or dies. And after guiding hundreds of students who struggle with consistency, I can guarantee that you're probably missing 3 of them. So in this video, I'm going to remind you of some things that your grandmother would say. Nothing fancy, nothing revolutionary, but sometimes we all need to be reminded of the basics. And once you understand why you've been setting yourself up for failure each time you roll out the mat, you can then take action. And there's a link for that in the description below, where you pretty much have to open up an app and click on a link and decide your routine, so you actually know how to build a foundation and grow in your practice. But none of that is possible if your lifestyle foundation is shaky, because you're going to feel depleted all the time and you can't take your yoga practice to the next level. Awesome, let's dive right in. Let's say you're not getting proper rest. You're not allowing your body to rejuvenate and recover from all the stuff that you make it do all day. You're not getting that 8 hours of sleep. This is like a cornerstone of your well-being. Now, if your rest is off and you've only slept for 1 hour, how can you expect yourself to wake up in the morning, be on the mat by 6:30 a.m., roll out your mat and do your practice, right? So if you're struggling to even step on the mat, it just means one of these fundamentals of holistic well-being are out of balance or out of alignment. And we got to make tiny shifts in these in order for you to feel like, okay, it's now a conducive, safe, time for me to commit to yoga. Prioritizing proper rest is really important. And of course, regular exercise, what we're talking about is a way to have a regular exercise through yoga, through Ashtanga Vinyasa, where it's both strength and flexibility. You're working on your breath. But of course, you don't have to limit your regular exercise to just yoga. Feel free to supplement it with walking, with running, with gym, whatever you need for your body subjectively. But then your balanced diet. So let's say you've been eating junk food because you've been on holiday for a really long time and your body just feels bloated, and every time you try and step on the mat, it's just I can't do this because I just had that lovely cake, and I'm not going to force myself at 4 p.m. in the afternoon to roll out my mat and practice because, my stomach doesn't feel like it's ready to take on postures. So a large part of this is just to monitor the times in which you expect yourself to practice and see when are you eating, what are you eating, and see if you can shift around a few things in those areas. Now, of course, when you do this, you'll be able to take more time for yoga and meditation. That then calms the mind, and it works as this loop of positive reinforcement where you fix your sleep, you fix your diet, you're doing other forms of exercise. Even if it's just walking around, in your apartment block, you're just kind of taking a few strolls. That's still regular exercise. That's still daily movement. Then you notice you introduce a little bit of yoga and meditation. You introduce some of these holistic practices. And your well-being tank kind of goes up like this. You start off really depleted, really fatigued, but as you fix each of these areas, you'll start to feel better. There's no other way to put this, but these are your grandmother's advice. I didn't make this up. This more than I do, because you probably lived longer than I have, and your grandma's probably told you that these are so basic, but I'm here only to remind you. I don't need to tell you anything new. I just need to remind you that these are the fundamentals, and maybe you're forgetting, in the busyness of life, that all of these need to be clearly solidified before you can expect to build a skyscraper of progress. A big part of that is having a more positive mindset. I know in today's world, it's almost one of the hardest times in the world to force this positivity, so we can't force it. We can't just say, okay, I'm going to think positively, even though, the world has so many wars, your own personal life is in shambles, work is not going well. It's hard to think positively against the grain of negativity in the world around you. And I'm not saying that you should do that. I don't think it works either. I'm just saying that it feels as if it's an effort to still retain an attitude of lightness despite holding all the darkness, like knowing you're reading the news, you're engaged, you're not cutting yourself off from the world, you're still aware of what's going on, but against that barrage of like information and like things just coming onto you, you still stay steady, you still stay strong, you still like almost in your own internal life, you're choosing this mindset of positivity, this lens of positivity, to almost selectively find the things that are going well instead of just like looking at the world as it is. And I guess part of the training of yoga is also to be able to see things as they are, not as we would like them to be, or that the way that the media or like, you know, everyone else is saying that it is. It's to develop this clear lens. So when we work on this foundation of just saying, okay, I'm looking at the news, but I'm not going to be affected by the news. I can see it, I can read it, but I'm detached from the news. So creating this sense of mental resilience and emotional balance is kind of a foundational thing even before we can expect ourselves to cultivate like a daily, lifelong routine, right? Like we need to have a state of balance, emotional balance, before we can even try something new. Sometimes we're just too much in the mire of things. We're just too caught up in life, too caught up in sadness, too caught up, and we all capable of this at different levels. It's not like any one of us is immune from it, but it's also the thing that makes us human, you know? It's the thing that makes us like fallible creatures. So positive thinking against this negative world is just being able to look at it with a detachment and make an effort, make a strong effort to build that mental resilience around it. Next, we've got selfless service. And selfless service is one of these things which is historically supposed to just be a part of your work, a part of your dharma, a part of like what you do for a living. And not all of us can like afford to have that kind of lifestyle. But those of us who've already made the decision to watch this video know that that life of just like, you know, achieving more profit, like reaching for the next thing, running that rat race, is like we've probably seen through it if we're even watching this video. Create a meaningful life through prioritizing your swadharma, or prioritizing things that actually make you feel like you're serving others rather than just serving yourself. Next, we've got simplicity. And simplicity is basically like one of these yamas and niyamas, or these ethical moral codes of conduct that are prescribed even in the Yoga Sutras. And basically what it tells us is you don't need a lot, you know, like if you actually analyzed what your needs are and you put it down, you know, you said, okay, I need to have this much income, I need to be able to have these many things for comfort and luxury. You don't really need so much extra stuff. And I know we've got trends of minimalism and like, you know, doing less and like traveling with a lot less, but it's also fighting against consumerism and all the stuff that tells us we need to buy more, we need to hoard more, we need to collect more. So simplicity in a sense just means what is it that's the bare minimum that will allow me to function, and then the rest of it, if you standardize that part and you make it simple, if you predefine that, then it reduces like stress in your life, and it reduces this sense of the world is impinging on your agency, you know, to be who you are. So also this ties into discipline and moderation, because when you live a life of simplicity, you're not pulled by the world. You're much more able to access discipline, access like the sense of if you choose you're going to like do something, then you're going to do something. If you choose you're going to buy something, then you're going to buy something. Now again, it's a skill, it's a thing that we have to develop, and a reminder of needing to moderate in itself is like a seed that I'm just trying to plant, because we all know that resources, not just for ourselves as individuals, but also on planet Earth, it's limited, right? Like this is why we have all the problems that we have, is because resources are limited. There's a finite bank of money, there's a finite bank. Does it actually add to your life, or can you do without it? And knowing that you can do without it is that moderation. It's that mitahara. Even when it comes to your diet, it's like saying, I've eaten this much, I feel full, and I don't need any more. And that mitahara as like an attitude to life also can help us like create a sense of structure and prevents us from overindulging at any given point. And then finally, we've got faith. This one is a tricky one because we all have different faiths and we all have different ways of needing faith or not needing faith. So what I will say is that sometimes it helps just to know that it's not all on you, and that you can give your problems to a higher power. Maybe it's your future self, maybe it's God, maybe it's like just a guru, like whatever you think will help like take the weight off your shoulders and like, relieve it to someone else or some other idea. That in itself, that introduction of faith gives us this sense that it's not all on us, so we can like have 8 hours of sleep, we can be eating fruits all the time, we can be like regularly exercising, we can be doing all of these things, and without this shraddha, without this element of faith, it can still feel like you're just like checking off things on a wellness to-do list. You can still feel like I'm following all the fundamentals of holistic well-being, I'm doing everything I can, I'm like drinking the green smoothies, I'm doing all of the things in the checklist, but I still don't feel like I'm well. I don't feel like I'm in that position of loving life and enjoying the life that I do have. Once these foundations are in place, you've almost laid the groundwork for a transformative yoga practice. You've understood the cornerstone of rest, you've learned how to fuel your body efficiently, shift your mindset, find meaning in simplicity, and kind of trust the process a bit more. Now you're in a much better position to step on the mat feeling nourished and rested, and then you can actually experience the transformative benefits of Ashtanga Yoga. The beautiful thing about Ashtanga is that it's almost like a mirror for us, and it's a mirror for the rest of your life. So when you honor those basic needs first, poses stop feeling like torture and start being medicine. But most people think that they need to go off on a retreat to Bali to get these fundamentals in place before they can actually build a routine. But I believe that you can do it consistently at home, regardless of how busy you are. So check out this video where I explain why Ashtanga is perfect for busy people. But until next time, stay bendy, stay brilliant, and Hari Om.